Right then, let's go.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the 2-on-1 Powerchair Football podcast powered by MK Battery. We're delighted to have MK Battery as our official sponsors for the 24-25 season. They have been a long-standing supporter of Powerchair Football, working closely with the WFA to provide the essential batteries that power our sport. Their dedication goes beyond just equipment. They've played a pivotal role in the development of the sport, helping to fuel its growth and success across all levels. And we're excited to have their backing this season as we look to bring you even more great content on the podcast. My name is Ryan Sipple, and alongside Alex Dowding, we will be your host throughout the 24-25 season. On this podcast, we'll be recapping all the action from our various leagues and competitions, inviting on some fantastic guests, diving into stories that make Powerchair Football special, and much, much more. A really exciting episode today where Alex and I will be diving into our predictions for the upcoming 2024-25 Optegra Premiership Game Week 1. The official sponsors of the National League, Optegra are a leading provider of eye healthcare, specialising in vision correction, cataract surgery and other advanced eye treatments, with a reputation for excellence and a commitment to improving patients' lives. Optegra operates a network of eye hospitals and clinics across the UK. Just before we get into it, Alex, how are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Ryan, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
I'm a little bit worried about this putting our neck on the block episode.
It's a dangerous one. We are opening ourselves up for a lot of potential controversy, putting kind of backing individuals and teams in which we think will be successful across the 24-25 Premiership. It's not typically done, but it adds a level of intrigue, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of interaction with our viewing and listening audiences.
So a little caveat up front, everyone. This is just personal opinions. We've had to pick someone or some team out of all of them. We are more than happy to be wrong. So good luck to everyone that we miss out. Good luck to those that we pick. Hope we don't give you any curse.
Absolutely.
I'm going to take this curse from Rye.
So for some context, today's predictions will be running through 8 key categories for the upcoming season. As we go through each one, I'll explain a little bit about what we mean by the category to make it as self-explanatory as possible. Alex and I have not conferred with one another, so we're unaware of who we've picked. And individually, we've written answers down for the following categories, from which we will discuss and deliberate ahead of Game Week 1 of the Premiership, scheduled for 26th and 27th of October. So we will predict our team to watch, player to watch, the best signing, the top assists, the top goal scorer, young player of the season, and of course the champions. So we're going to run down that list as it follows. So starting us off, we have team to watch. And when we talk about team to watch, we don't necessarily mean a team we think will be the top performer or the likely champions of the league. Instead, it's a team we're particularly excited to follow throughout the season, one that might have undergone some significant changes, maybe through new signings, a new coach, or even a newly promoted side that could shake things up in the division. It's all about the intrigue and the potential that a team brings, making them a fascinating story to keep an eye on as the season unfolds. So I will pass over to Alex, where he can tell us who he thinks will be his team to watch.
Cheers, right. So I've had a good look through and I've picked out Greenbank. Now, a couple of reasons I've picked Greenbank. First up, whenever you get a team goes from the Championship into the Premiership for the first time, it is incredibly difficult. Pace is faster. The ball's in play for more of the game. It's moved faster. The average speeds are higher. All of those things we've got data on and know those things. And it's very hard for any team to adapt that quickly. So nearly every team ends up in a relegation fight, or a large percentage of teams that go up for the first time also go back down again for the first time. So none of those teams have ever had a player of quite the calibre of Marcus Harrison join. I know he's been player coach, so he knows all the players well, he knows the systems well, and obviously designs all the in-game tactics. But Marcus is an incredible player, shown it on the international stage at the highest level. That he's capable and is an absolute nightmare to play against for starters. But on top of that, shows the tactical awareness and has been involved in some of the great West Brom teams over the last few years, as well as current reigning European champion with England and runner-up the World Cup. So he's top 10 player in the world we're talking about here. So that makes it a very interesting signing and a move from West Brom over to Greenbank. On top of that, the players that they've got coming through are either young and developing really well and really quickly, or have got a little bit of experience already and played in the Prem in Luke Kelly. So they've got a really interesting mix of exciting young players, world-class player in the middle, and a good quality Premiership player with lots of experience to support that process. So they're shaping up to be a potentially good Premiership side. I think they're going to progress fast over the course of the initial part of the season, but I think they might struggle a little bit to start with. All teams do, but I think they'll find their pace and their feet very quickly, and will be an interesting to see how they affect the rest of the table with some of their performances as the season goes on as well.
I think it's an absolutely fantastic prediction. Greenbank were so dominant in the 23-24 championship, for which they were, of course, crowned champions of their 22 games played. They won 20, drew 1, lost 1, amassing 88 goals scored, which I think speaks for itself. You've already spoken about Marcus Harrison specifically, and he was, of course, alongside Jerry Kinsella as the designated coach of Greenbank. So he kind of had a decision to make. The current rules and regulations around National League football means a player cannot play for one team and coach another within the same division. Had Greenbank stayed in the championship, maybe he would have opted to continue playing his football at West Bromwich Albion. But it's an incredibly bold move for Marcus Harrison, a player, as you've already said, is at the absolute top of his game. You said that he was probably top 10 players in the world. I'd go as far as saying he's top 5 players in the world. I rate him so highly. He's always amongst the goals, against the assists. I think he swept up pretty much every single award at our most recent awards night held back in July. So an incredible signing for Greenbank. I think the key will be in establishing that partnership and that chemistry with Luke Kelly, which he used to play with at West Brom. Jacob Buck-Platt, one of the country's youngest, brightest players, again, adds to that element of youth and experience and the perfect amalgamation between the two. So I would struggle to disagree with your prediction of Greenbank. I will preface it by saying I think this will be one of, if not the most competitive Premiership divisions we have ever had, like the Championship. We've seen so many individual transfers and switch-ups that it makes it the unknown as one point, but so intriguing as another. And I've got it as a potential 6-horse race for the title. We'll delve onto that later when we come to predicting our champions. But Greenbank are very much in that mix because of the quality they've got. And it's a point that you made once, Al, that's always stuck with me. Being a 4-a-side format of the game, one player comprises 25% of your squad. So one player can make such a huge difference to how successful you are in an ongoing season. It's the equivalent of 2 or 3 players in the running game of football. You add 2 or 3 Marcus Harrison type players to a Premier League team in the mainstream running game, they can go straight up the table and potentially challenge for titles. So it's so exciting. I really cannot wait to see Greenbank get under action.
And the other point to make, of course, is that if it's a pivot player, centre player, then a larger percentage of the play goes through that player as well. So although 25% of the players on the pitch, you could argue it's closer to 40-50% of the play is impacted. However, let's move on to your prediction.
Absolutely.
What have you got for team to watch?
So my team to watch, I went back and forward on this. I think I've changed my answer 2 or 3 times because it is just so highly anticipated. I have actually put Villa Rockets down as my team to watch. A team that is a kind of a mainstay in the Premiership division. They're a solid team. They always typically finish middle of the pack. They did last season, finishing, I believe, 6th in the 12-team Premiership. They've got a solid foundation. Amir Ali and Hamza Madir as 2 players in particular that have established a fantastic 1-2 pivot, but they've added, and this is where we'll probably reference this across the podcast, and we did in our previous podcast when we recapped the action from game week 1 of the Championship, is that so many teams are in transition, whether that's seeing new coaches come in, players depart, players come in, or more. Villa Rockets have brought in Bobby Allen from Nomad Knights, now GBG Knights. So one of the country's most talented young players has come in to bolster their attack. And they've also brought in Dave Lewis, an experienced champion. England international, was present in the 2023 Fit for Powerchair Football World Cup England squad. I have no doubt that he will contribute to the coaching of the side as well. So I'm excited to see what they can do. They've always finished middle of the pack. Can they upset or challenge the teams above them? It remains to be seen. But they're not necessarily one that I would say would be in the title race. But having the acquisition of 2 top quality players could mean that they're in amongst that race.
A very interesting pick indeed. Like you say, there's been quite a few movements of players going from leaving teams and joining others, and that kind of makes it a bit unpredictable. But I think that points towards the fast development of the sport and how quickly the game is moving forward, both in terms of playing level of individuals technically, but also the tactics and how people want to play the game as teams and coaching as well is moving along very fast. So it's an interesting pick you've pulled out. There's certainly some interesting additions they've got to their squad there. It will be time, I guess, will tell whether or not they can gel quickly enough to develop a style of play that suits all the different qualities that they've got within their squad, and how that then looks within the context of what you've already said is a very competitive league.
Yeah, it's that transition for Villa Rockets. They've seen the departure of Daniel Kay and Daniel Ball, and by default, Tony Kay, who was the Villa Rockets coach. So it's how quickly they can adapt to a new system, to a new field, to a new style of play will kind of dictate where and how they fare in the Premiership division, but it's compelling viewing nonetheless, and I can't wait for game week 1 to get underway. Next in our list of predictions, we have player to watch. Like the team to watch, the player to watch isn't necessarily the one we expect to be the top performer or the standout player of the season. Instead, it's maybe someone we're particularly interested in seeing progress, whether they've moved to a new team, taking on a new role, or a young talent coming through. It could be a player we think might surprise people or have an impact in ways that weren't expected. They're one to keep an eye on as the season unfolds. Would you like to go first on this, Alex?
I'm more than happy to. I've had a tough pick on this. There's a lot of players that you think this season are going to be significant for them and moving forward and stepping up a little bit on their development. However, I've ended up going with Ollie Crawshaw at Newcastle. Now, Ollie has shown a lot of promise over the last 2 or 3 years. He's made the England squads. He's shown a lot of potential. He's now in a fairly crowded Newcastle squad, but he has got a bit more experience under his belt in terms of the the Premiership as a season, how that unfolds, how that goes. And I just feel he's getting to a little bit older, getting that, utilising that experience he's had in the Premiership. I think he's going to be a very, very influential player for Newcastle this year. And so that's kind of who I've plumped for, just because I think his time's about now to really step up.
I think that's the case for a lot of players, certainly the ones that are knocking on the door with the intent of breaking into the various England levels that the FA provide and they support. Worth noting, I think so we've got the 24-25 season, and then we've got the 2025 European Championships, the for Nations Cup. And I don't believe there'll be any Premiership football between the ending of this season and the start of next. So if players want to break into that England squad, they're going to have to impress this season. They're going to have to hit the ground running. You've mentioned how talented Ollie Crawshaw is. Worth noting that he missed 2 of the 5 weekends from the 23-24 season, but was still crowned Young Player of the Season. And I think that speaks volumes to his impact, to how talented he is. And if he can have 5 weekends under his belt, displaying the same sort of composure, charisma, confidence that he did across last season, then there is no reason why he can't go on to achieve great things and break in to maybe the England development squad, or maybe even the England senior squad. There's obviously going to be switch-ups at England senior squad level with regards to the coaching setup. There's no reason that if new coaches come in, they won't have a look at players such as Ollie Crawshaw and think that they will benefit or improve the current setup. So really excited to see what Ollie Crawshaw can do. Was such a key player, and this is a Newcastle side that finished 3rd last season, and he missed 2 of their 5 weekends. So there's no reason why, if he's not present, they can't really challenge for the title.
Totally agree, hence my selection. Now then, you didn't agree with me on Greenbank. Have you agreed with me on player to watch? Who have you picked?
I haven't agreed with you on player to watch. That does not mean I won't be casting a eager eye over Ollie Crawshaw, because I think he is absolutely brilliant. I've actually got 2 players here that I just want to talk about briefly. I'm going to break my own rules and maybe give some honourable mentions or pick 2 for certain categories. So I'm going to follow a similar line to my first prediction in terms of Villa Rockets, and I'm going to choose Hamza Madir. Hamza Madir is a player that has just developed season after season. I think this is only either his 3rd or his 4th National League season, having come through the ranks at Villa Rockets. And I just think he is an incredibly gifted player, understands and reads the game so brilliantly, and I have to give credit to Amir Ali for that, kind of taking him under his wing. Typically used as the designated goalkeeper of Villa Rockets, I would love to see him utilised in more attacking areas of the court. That's of course for Villa coaches to decide, but we both had the pleasure of coaching him recently at St George's Park as part of a national regional emergent talent programme. And he was absolutely brilliant. An event that had some of the country's brightest young players, and he was probably the best. And I won't shy away from saying that. It's his season now to make a real impression, continue that partnership with Amir Ali, and also establish a new chemistry and understanding with the new players in Bobby Allen and Dave Lewis. So it's all about where they utilise him. But if he carries on the trajectory from the 22-23 and the 23-24 campaigns, he will have a fantastic season ahead. So that is my number 1. And just my honourable mention will be Cole Simpson. Cole Simpson has recently transferred over from Hull and East Yorkshire. I think he's been present in that Hull squad for the last 5 or 6 seasons. So a big switch up for him. He was very much central to any and all plans of Hull and East Yorkshire. So it's a different kind of feel for him. He's going to have to come in and settle into a squad with to do Hull and East Yorkshire no discredit. much higher quality in terms of the talent of the players and the coaching. So how he integrates into that will be really intriguing. He's as part of the current National Emergent Talent Programme, and I think I mentioned in the last podcast that he probably wanted to maintain his momentum within the England talent pathway. So he had to seek a move and maintain a position in the Premiership, for which he has done. You've already said that Newcastle have a very talented squad, a larger squad than maybe other teams. So maybe he has to settle for less minutes than he's used to, but taking the chances when he's utilised.
Love the picks. Very strong arguments for those as well. So I think we've got two there in our predictions, plus an honourable mention for Cole, that are definitely strong candidates for some of the other awards potentially towards the end of the season, but certainly keep an eye on how they're getting on as we go along. Big fan of Hamza as well. I think he's solid, steady, seems to just makes it look easy when he plays well, which I think all the great players do. Right, where are we at?
Next up, we have the best signing. So when we talk about the best signing, we're looking at which new addition to a team could have the biggest impact this season. Not necessarily the most talented, but someone who fits into their new team and has the potential to make a real difference, whether that's in terms of goals, assists, or even leadership on the pitch, something that can't be understated in the sport of Powerchair Football. It could be someone who fills a crucial gap or brings in that element that elevates the team to a new level. We've had a number of new signings in terms of players that have moved to another team. 15 as of today, which is October 4th when we're recording this podcast. So plenty of options to pick from. Alex, your signing of the season.
So, unsurprisingly, given my opening team to watch and my explanation is my reason why, I have, of course, gone for Marcus Harrison for player to watch. And not player to watch, best signing. I just feel like he's a level above anything that any other side can sign, really. And given his affinity already with the team, where he's coached them for the last season in the Championship. He knows all the players really well. He'll get on with them all. Obviously, he's a local lad, Greenbank being based in Liverpool. So there's a lot of factors that are in the favour of that, not just being a new signing, someone coming in fresh, but someone integrating well into a system that they're already part of and taking on a role that they are world class at. So there's my fairly obvious and not too difficult to pick decision. Marcus Harrison, best signing.
It's definitely, in terms of when you look at the list of new signings, he is the one your eyes are drawn to straight away. We've already mentioned it. One of the leading players in the world and such a fantastic signing for Greenbank. He will elevate them to a whole nother level. Typically in football, it's the way it goes. If a team gets promoted from the Championship, they will often be referred to or seen as the favourites or the more likely to be relegated. They have to do a lot more to adapt to a new pace, to a new style, to a new league. And typically, if you secure safety, you've done well. Whereas the signing of Marcus Harrison means that, unfortunately for Greenbank, there is a huge level of expectation on their shoulders now, in the fact that they could be challenging right towards the summit, not just within the league, but the cup competition as well, which we're really proud of. So, firstly, congratulations to Greenbank for securing such a fantastic player, and credit to Marcus Harrison as well, to move from five-time champions West Brom down to Greenbank. Shows how committed he is to that project, and I'm really excited to see him get underway with Greenbank. It will be slightly strange seeing him in a green kit for as long as I can remember. It's the blue and white stripes of the baggies.
Right then. We've not agreed on anything yet. We've been happy with each other's picks. We've not argued with anything, but we've gone slightly different directions. Have you finally picked the same one as me?
I think that's why we have such a fantastic working relationship, Alex, because we see things from different perspectives, but we can understand each other's views, and that will be the case throughout this podcast. I'll be very surprised if we do have a similar pick. I can say
that's a no then, isn't it? That's a no for this one.
Well, as I said, we haven't conferred. So my prediction for the signing of the season, again, it was so hard to pick, is Lucas Christa. Lucas Christa has moved from West Bromwich Albion Throssels to West Bromwich Albion. A player that maybe goes under the radar. He's so effective at the job that he does for whatever team he's occupying for. He was a long-time player of St George's Knights, and more recently, I think 1 or 2 seasons with West Bromwich Albion Throssels, and he's just a brilliant player. A player, to be honest, what has impressed me most with Lucas is the improvement and the development of his temperament. He's a very fiery player, wears his heart on his sleeve, a front foot, aggressive player, and that's in no way a bad thing. But certainly across the latter stages of last season, we saw him be a lot more professional, a lot more mature. And whether that's the step up in level, whether it's because he's now been integrated into the National Emergent Talent Programme, and that's advice that's been fed to him there if he wants to progress to England senior level. I've just been really impressed, and I think he's very much earned his position, and to be part of the West Bromwich Albion squad, who will be challenging for the title. It will be something new for him. I think he's won championship titles with St George's Knights in the past, but not necessarily competed towards the top of our Premiership. So that's something he'll have to deal with. With that comes additional scrutiny, additional pressure. So it will be about controlling that temperament and that aggression at the top level. But one thing I'm most looking forward to is him re-establishing that relationship with Dylan Kelsall, who, of course, he played many years with at St George's Knights. They kind of were telepathic when it come to knowing each other's games, and re-establishing that now at the Premiership. It's been a fantastic journey for both of them, and they've earned their position to fight for titles. So Lucas Christa is my pick, but I will just say honourable mentions, of course, to Marcus Harrison, who you've selected, to Bobby Allen. Big step up for him in terms of moving to Villa Rockets and maintaining his position in the Premiership. Big season ahead. And Amy Lee Julian, who's been the standout player in the Championship for many years. She will now ply her trade with West Bromwich Albion Dudley, having moved up from the she's moving to Throssels from Dudley. So they are my picks.
Interesting picks. I like them. They're good. Good observations. Considered. I'll give you those for. I'd say those are considered.
Thank you.
Right. Let's move on. What's our next category, right?
Our next category is the top assists. So when we predict the top assists category, we're focusing on the player who we believe will be the key playmaker, consistently setting up goals throughout the season. It's not just about scoring themselves, it's about their vision, about their creativity and ability to provide chances for their teammates. This player is often at the heart of the team's attacking moves, making things happen in the final third and helping to unlock defences. So, Alex, your top assist of the season.
Well, it's one of those where it's a stats-based one. I've checked out the stats. I'm also going with a bit of gut instinct as well, because this is probably who I'd have picked before looking at the stats. But top assist last season was Mr. John Boulding. I've picked Mr. John Boulding again. I think the way that Aspire play, he's so influential in what they do. He's just dominates every move, every bit of attacking play, every bit of defensive play. He's very much on the pitch dictating how a game unfolds. And because of that, he gets loads of assists. Now, I know got a slightly different squad this year, but you've also got some great players in that squad that have scored a lot of goals from John as well. Still there. And they're going to be getting better, in my opinion, this season. So I just can't see past John at the moment. I would say he's going to be involved in a very high percentage of Aspire's goals, and Aspire are going to be in the mix, as they always are. So, John Balding, no brainer. There we go.
I'm probably John's biggest fan. I absolutely idolise him. He is a national treasure. He does not get the credit he deserves, and when I say that, I mean within the wider context of sporting achievements in this country. If he is not the proud owner of a knighthood later on in life, then we've done something wrong. So I hope he continues that level and feeds that into the Ep for Nations Cup in 2025, because we're going to need him on fine form, and that creativity is so central to not just Aspire but England as well. So whilst I fully agree with your sentiment, I have not picked John Balding for top assists of the 2024-25 Optegra Premiership, and I will explain why. It was a difficult one for me to predict this, and exactly the same as you, I referenced the 23-24 leaderboard in terms of creativity, and when you look at the list, the top three are comprised of John Balding on 23, Marcus Harrison on 20, and Brad Bates on 19. All of them have seen a teammate depart or have departed their team themselves. So John Balding with 23 assists were putting on that creativity for Brad Bates, who finished top goal scorer. So it's a bit of a dilemma in the fact that Brad has lost that creativity and that assurance of John's creativity behind him. And John has lost that attacking output and that assurance that there is someone there to clinically put away the chances up top. Aspire, of course, have so much attacking talent in Rosie Dack and Dan McClellan and the recently acquired John Dixon. But Brad Bates, of course, is always amongst the goals. So I haven't picked John. I've picked someone that will have familiarity with his surroundings and the players, if not have additional players to then distribute the ball to. So I've picked Dylan Kelsall of West Bromwich Albion, a player probably on a greater trajectory within the sport than anyone else in the country. He will almost certainly comprise England squads, if not in 2025, but most certainly beyond. I think West Bromwich Albion, whilst they've lost Marcus Harrison, and I'm almost contradicting myself in the way that Marcus Harrison has departed, Valentino Zegarelli has of course gone back to Argentina, and that in itself is near on 46 goals that West Bromwich Albion scored last season. But I think the acquisition of Brad Bates means them goals all by default they're replaced by what Brad can produce. And Dylan Kelsall is growing in stature, growing in confidence, and Chris Gordon is almost giving him the keys to the kingdom to be that central player and be that real creator. So I've picked Dylan Kelsall. He only had 11 assists last season, so it's almost a bold prediction on my end. But I think he has an incredibly big season ahead, and I've got a lot of expectation for him.
A very interesting pick, and we may see why shortly, because I believe it is top goal scorer next.
It absolutely is top goal scorer next, but before we do, I just want to take a moment to talk about MK Battery, the amazing new sponsor of the 2-on-1 Powerchair Football podcast. MK Battery, as already mentioned, a huge supporter of the sport and have been so for many years, providing the batteries that keep our chairs moving. Their involvement goes far beyond just supplying equipment. They've been deeply committed to the development of the sport, supporting players, clubs and competitions at all levels. MK Battery has worked closely with the WFA, helping the sport grow and making sure players have access to reliable, high-performance batteries, which are crucial for both training and competitions. And it's thanks to sponsors like them that we can continue to evolve and reach more people. And we're incredibly proud to have them as our partner for the 2024-25 season. And just before we go on, I just want to say, if anyone has any ideas, topics you'd like us to cover, we've recently created an email account for the podcast. You can ask us questions, suggest ideas for upcoming episodes, or state your intent of joining myself and Alex. So you can reach us by sending an email to 2on1@thewfa.org.uk. That's 2on1@thewfa.org.uk. And all details can also be found on our website at www.thewfa.org.uk/podcast. So next up, Alex and I will be predicting the top goal scorers, a natural progression from the top assists. It's a player we think will be the most prolific in front of goal this season. This player is likely to be the focal point of their team's attack, always in the right place to finish chances and consistently finding the back of the net. It's not just about their talent, but also about their positioning, their instinct and ability to thrive under pressure when it matters most. Alex, please state your top goal scorer of the season.
Well, this is where it gets interesting given your top assist prediction. I have picked the top goal scorer, Dylan Kelsall. So, I understand that he will be playing potentially a more central role, one of the two pivots that West Brom play in their system. But West Brom's system is very fluid. Very fluid. So, the increase in the responsibility he'll be given, I think he'll thrive on. I think he will show the levels that we know he's been capable of for quite a while, as you've already said. Well, I think that's going to turn into goals as much as it is assists. I think he'll be up there with the assists. But I think the way that West Brom play, the fluid system that they have, he will find himself in some very, very good goal-scoring positions and is ruthless given the opportunities. So he's not been a mainstay in the starting four for West Brom for the season. He's been in and out. But with Marcus going, responsibility being taken on by Dylan at the right time for him as well, I think he's going to have a lot more minutes this season. That's going to translate into more goals. So a top goal scorer is, like you say, up-and-coming player who's very near the top and is both agree he's going to get there. Wonderful player, Dylan Kelsall.
Yeah, fantastic player. It'll be interesting to see how they replace that creativity that Marcus Harrison provided. Marcus Harrison, as well as finishing top goal scorer last season, put on 20 assists for his teammates. So someone's going to have to fill that void. If that is the case, there is no reason why a Dylan Kelsall cannot be top goal scorer. He's so technically proficient, so versatile as well, and that's probably what skews our predictions and our judgments of the season, because certainly when referencing West Brom, I think there is that onus on making sure their players are versatile to play in different positions, in different systems, so they can adapt to whatever they're facing. Dylan Kelsall, one of the best at that, and it just touches on what I said earlier about the fact that this season rolls into the F Nations Cup, and he's going to want to either be that creator or that goal scorer to show the England coaches why he needs to be in their plans.
I think he's one of the cleanest ball strikers in the game. His chair movements are so efficient when he goes for a full spin. A big spin, half spin, three-quarter spin, whichever he's going for. His chair movement is always so efficient. He very rarely has to adjust. He very rarely has to move off the spot in which he's spinning from. So his chair positioning to take those on, and then his technical execution with the chair, I think, are second to none. So I totally agree. Top goal scorer, Dylan Kelsall, for me. Have you agreed with me yet, Rye? Have we managed to find the one?
As much as I rate Dylan Kelsall, I don't think I would want to put too much pressure on him to say I'd want him to be top assist provider and top goal scorer. So I can confirm I haven't agreed with you on that one. My predicted top goal scorer of the season is Tyler Reeve. Tyler Reeve,
interesting,
as many within England know, is one of the most brilliant technical players there is. He broke into that World Cup squad. Sadly for him, didn't feature a great deal as England lost in the final to France. But the fact that he had that experience at that age only bodes well for the future, and he has that experience to fall back on now. Sorry for repeating it, but with the season rolling into the 2025 European Championships, Tyler will almost certainly want to maintain his position in that squad, and the spotlight is on him now. Whereas he kind of went under the radar in the lead up to Sydney, there is the expectation now, and I think he will rise to that occasion. Unlike West Brom and Aspire particularly, Teesside have a little bit more stability in that they haven't seen any of their key players depart. So they have that level of chemistry that others are trying to cultivate going forward. They've also added to their ranks. They've brought in Greg Baxter, who was plying his trade at Sevenoaks last season. So they've strengthened as well. And how they utilise or try and fit Greg Baxter, Ed Common, Mitch Tinkler, Tyler Reeve into their system is a dilemma for their coaches, because typically they use Alistair Hay in goal. But I think Tyler Reeve will be central to Teesside's plans at one point, and will have to be if he wants to maintain his position in the England squad. And just like Dylan Kelsall, if he wants to be there, he has to show why in the 24-25 season. So I think between him and Ed Common, they're continuing to grow and develop and understand one another's game, and I think we'll see that bear fruit this season.
Great pick. Be great to see someone that young top the goal scoring charts. Looking forward to seeing if either of our predictions come true. I assume we're going to have a revisit of these predictions at the end of the season.
I have no doubt we will be scrutinised from the moment this podcast is released. So whether we reference it across our various recaps of each game week, or have a podcast at the conclusion of the season where we can cross-reference and see how many have come to pass.
Is it worth asking people to send in their predictions as well on email? We can maybe have a quick look at putting a table together maybe.
Very potentially. It's typically something we run across social media. I'm always keen to get people's thoughts and predictions for the seasons ahead. We did it for the Premiership and the Championship, for which we received many varied votes. But by all means, send in your predictions to our email address, 2on1@thewfa.org.uk, and maybe in our recap of game week 1 we will reference them in the episode. So yeah, it's an interactive one. It's a bit of fun, and I hope people know that we don't. Certainly for me, I don't really care who wins each of these accolades at the conclusion of the season. Ultimately, I want to ensure that the sport and the division is as competitive as possible, and ultimately, it's up for players to prove us right or wrong.
100% agree. Please don't send us hate. Right, what's next?
Yeah, so making really good progress. The next one is a big one. Young player of the season. Young Player of the Season is for the standout player who is aged 18 or under at the start of the season. We've had a recent change in the rules surrounding this award. I think we restricted ourselves too much before, in that a player had to be 16 or under. So a lot of players were taken out of consideration, which was probably a mistake on our behalf. But we've hopefully corrected that now, so that, as mentioned, player 18 or under at the start of the season, so as of the 26th of October 2024, if you are 18, you are in consideration for this, not just in Alex and I's prediction now, but the award at the conclusion of the season. And this celebrates someone who is a key figure within their teams, contributing significantly despite their age or experience. These players have shown their ability to perform at a high level and are likely to be among the future stars of our sport, if they're not so already. Alex, your young player of the season, please.
Well, just to start by saying, I'm not going to name check everybody because there's quite a few names on the list, but the list of players that are eligible is quite a squad. I mean, there's quite a few players there, but there's some very, very talented players in there already. So to be picked out as young player of the season, you're going to be up against some serious competition. However, that being said, if I've picked out John Balding with top assists, then it stands to reason that there's going to be some players scoring quite a few goals on the end of those assists. And I think, therefore, the goal contributions, as well as his overall play and talent that he's already shown, that's got him into the England squads, means that Dan McClellan, for me, will be young player of the season. He's pushed further and higher than any other young player I know in the world. Getting into a World Cup squad at his age that went so far in the tournament and played a key role in that team. I know there were some younger players at the World Cup, but England got to the final. That's a significant achievement to be part of that squad and part of the team that achieved that. So he's already playing at a very, very high level. I think another year of experience under his belt, possibly a bit more responsibility given to him at Aspire this season as well. I just think it's another one of time has come for Dan, and I just think he's going to be phenomenal. He's got great family support behind him that do everything they possibly can to help him achieve success as well. And he's been guided brilliantly by John Balding up until now. I see no reason why that's going to change. So, young player of the season, Dan McClellan.
A fantastic pick. Dan, one of the country's best prospects, one of the best players we've ever produced. And I think that more is testament to the level of development of the sport and the talent at that age bracket now. The fact that players such as Dan are coming in and getting straight into a strike force, they're not going through the evolutions of chairs such as John. And I think John will be the first to admit that he was nowhere near the level at Dan's age that Dan is operating at now, competing in World Cup finals, in cup competitions, in leagues right till the very end. And he has been central to Aspire's success since he broke into that squad 2 or 3 seasons ago. And that is credit both to Dan and his family. You've already mentioned such a brilliant play. Finished with 17 goals and 10 assists last season. No doubt he'll want to better that in the 24-25 season. He was only a vote or two off securing his 3rd consecutive Young Player of the Season award. That went to Ollie Crawshaw in our most recent awards evening. But it just shows the level he's operating at. Another player that will have a side eye on the 2025 Euros. He'll want to be present in that squad as he was in Sydney. So he has a lot to do in terms of maintaining the spot, because any player that regresses or stands still will be passed by other talented players. So arguably the best young player in the country. So
and also not forgetting Aspire's European victory over the course of the summer, which will have added phenomenal experience and great deal of confidence to that squad as well. So I think that's adding to the mix of time. Time has come for them to perform.
Yeah, he's a European champion at club level, and not many players of his age can say that, both in mainstream football or impairment-specific football. I think it's really important, the point you made about the step up in responsibility. Now Brad has departed. They brought in John Dixon, but the responsibility of Dan McClellan is heightened now, and there will be that expectation for him across the 5 weekends. But I have no doubt he has the maturity and the experience now to fall back on, which is crazy to say when I don't think he's even 15 years old. So full credit to him, and look forward to seeing him in the season ahead.
Right, then we've both made a very compelling case there for Dan. I think that's a strong argument there, which means you must have agreed with me on this one.
Dan was my honourable mention because I'm just such a huge fan of him and his football. I haven't agreed with you on it in terms of my prediction for the young player of the season. I've gone with someone that will have all the ground to make up on a Dan. I've chosen Jacob Book-Platt of Greenbank. And it's a bold pick. This is a young player coming into the Premiership for the first time. So there's already that element that he's going to have to adapt to. The psychological side, the mental side, the physical side, let alone the talent that the Premiership possesses. So that's one point. But I think that he will come and he will develop his game with Marcus Harrison. You've referenced John Balding taking Dan McClellan under his wing. I think Marcus Harrison and Luke Kelly have been doing that, but can do so more with hands-on, playing on the same team in the season ahead. I think he was really unlucky to be overlooked for the Young Player of the Season for the Championship last year, for which Henry Barnard of Norwich City was successful, but Norwich City defied all the odds to get promoted, and Henry Barnard was central to that. Another one that could be a consideration for my Young Player of the Season, because it's not necessarily the standout performer. It's one that has maybe the greatest impact or the greatest arc in terms of their development across the 5 weekends. So that is important to preface that. So I'm going to choose Jacob Book-Platt, but there's no reason why any one of the players, and we've worked it out, there's 15 players as of today, October the 4th. 15 players will be aged 18 or under competing in game week 1 of the 24-25 Optegra Premiership, which shows just how fantastic the development of the sport is. The fact that we've got players that sort of age competing at the very top.
Totally agree. Right. Not many awards left to think about. Next one up is...
our penultimate prediction for the upcoming season is the coveted Player of the Season, which is awarded to the individual we believe will have the most outstanding campaign, consistently performing at the highest level and making a huge impact for their team. This player will be pivotal in key moments, whether through scoring goals, creating chances, or being that leader on the pitch. Is someone who stands out as the most influential and reliable performer throughout the season. Alex, your player of the season.
I've got to try and be consistent with my analysis of what's going to happen. And I've already said that the best signing is going to be Marcus Harrison. And I think he's also going to be player of the season. I think the switch into the middle, which I'm no doubt he's going to play in the middle for Greenbank for a large percentage of the time. I don't know, but looking at their squad, I would imagine Marcus and Luke will be double pivots at different points. There might be other players that come in and out of that partnership as well, but I think those two will probably form that bit. that part of the team layout. And I just think he's got an appetite now to go and show that he can run a game of football from the middle. He's done it before for West Brom plenty of times. He plays out on the wide for England and is very effective out wide in that position, as we know. But I just think he's the sort of player that likes being centre of attention. He likes being in that middle of the park and will thrive on the extra pressure and responsibility of controlling games and guiding that young side through the season. I think he's going to absolutely love it and thoroughly enjoy himself. And who plays better than when they're enjoying themselves? So, Marcus Harrison.
I wouldn't disagree with any of that. That's a fantastic case for Marcus Harrison. I think all eyes will be on him because it's that change, it's that switch up, how he'll adapt to a new surroundings. Of course, he coached them last season, but coaching a team and player for a team in different divisions is very different things. So, very intrigued to see how he does.
So then, with such a strong case put forward, I can only assume this is the one.
I can confirm this isn't the one, sadly. So if we're unable to agree on a shared champion, we will have disagreed on every category in the podcast. I will say that, firstly, that I truly believe player of the season and the champion of the Premiership division will go hand in hand with the title race. I just simply believe there is the opportunity for a single player to really take their team up to secure the championship, and there is 5-10 potential considerations for that Premiership player or standout player of the season. We'll get onto the title race in a minute, but I truly believe it's a six horse race this season. And for that, my player of the season, I've selected Ethan Fisher. Ethan Fisher, I believe, will be the standout. He is incredibly gifted. His technical ability, his vision on the pitch, relentless work ethic make him a game changer for Newcastle United Foundation. He consistently influences the outcome of matches, whether it's through pinpoint passing, his intelligent positioning. He's starting to grow in terms of his leadership qualities. He's fundamental in both attacking and defensive phases of play. He embodies the qualities of a true all-rounder. He's growing in maturity, which is the biggest kind of development I've observed in his game in terms of taking him to the next level. And I think that's coming with the additional experience of competing in the Premiership division. So I believe Ethan Fisher has a huge season ahead. We'll want to break into that England squad, just like a number of other players we have referenced. But huge season for Newcastle and Ethan Fisher.
Big call. Pressure's on, Heath. We're watching. See how you get on. Right then, the big one. We're on to our final prediction, yes? Champions of the Premiership. Optegra Premiership champions 2024-25.
Yeah, absolutely. So the champion that refers to the team that performs consistently at the highest level, accumulating the most points over the course of the season and emerging victorious after 22 competitive fixtures. This will be a team that demonstrates skill, strategy, teamwork, earning the title for the best in the league. Have we agreed?
We'll see. So I came into this sport 2015, very early in 2015, January. But I came to this sport in January 2015. That's when I probably became aware of the sport in 2014. January 2015, I took up my first official kind of role within it at Wessex Warriors. And by middle of 2016, I'd learnt a very important lesson. And that lesson is never bet against John Boulding. fool's game. It's a fool's game to bet against JB. I just think he is so dominant on the pitch for Aspire in games. He controls matches when he wants to. He's always there in the big moments. He's a phenomenal force of power chair, to be frank. And I think with Dan McClellan coming up this year and developing again, got more experience on his belt, the phenomenal efforts of Tom Kelly in goal. I think he's such a solid goalkeeper. And a couple of additions, or in addition to the Aspire squad with the already other talented players that are there, I think they're going to pip it. I think they're going to be the ones that in the crucial moments have the extra. So Aspire are my tips for winners of the Optegra National Premiership 2024-25. And I can only assume, since it's such a good judgment and prediction to have made, this is the one, right?
I've already mentioned the fact that I think it will be one of the most compelling, one of the most intriguing title races we've ever had. I will happily state that I think it will be a 6-horse race with transfers, alterations, switch-ups, both at player level and coaching level. I've got Aspire, West Brom, Newcastle, Teesside, Leeds and Greenbank all as potential considerations. If they get the formula right, there is no reason why any one of them cannot be crowned champions. I will say that I have not agreed that Aspire will be champions, but I will wholeheartedly agree with the statement, do not bet against John Balding. I'm going to contradict myself in the fact that I don't think Aspire will be champions. I think they've got a void departed by Brad Bates that's going to have to be shared and picked up by other players within their squad. But John just seems to defy the odds at any and every opportunity, and for that Aspire will almost certainly be in consideration. I think it will be the closest race we've ever had, and it won't just be two teams, what we've come accustomed to.
However, you have picked...
I was umming and ahhing between two. I said that the player of the season would go hand in hand with the potential Premiership winners. And I'm even going to change my mind now in the fact that I think Newcastle United Foundation will be crowned champions. And that is an incredibly bold prediction. But if we're looking at their trajectory across the last 3 or so seasons, it's going one way, and that's up. They are an incredibly balanced side. They're a cohesive side. Since the last weekend of football, they've sadly lost Albie Morris, for which was absolutely devastating. And they've kind of rallied together, and they're going to play in that young man's honour. But with standout players such as Ethan Fisher, Ollie Crawshaw driving them forward, the acquisition of Cole Simpson, as already mentioned, their depth and quality across all positions, combined with their tactical flexibility and the chemistry that they've clearly demonstrated year after year, makes them formidable contenders for me. And it just plays into this compelling title race. I think their defensive resilience is improving. I think they have flair in attacking phases of pitch, consistently breaking down their opponents. They were the only team really last season that troubled Aspire or West Brom. There was others that took points off the top two. But I know, talking to representatives from West Brom and Aspire, that they just hate playing Newcastle United Foundation. And I think that will be a continuing trend across 24-25. I have to give full credit to Jamie Harrison on this. I think he is one of, if not the country's leading coach. His tactical knowledge combined with his ability to inspire the players has a transformative impact on his squad. It really is a sight to see. He is so unique in his tactical approach in terms of how he manages his players. And I think his dedication to fostering talent at all levels, whether it's the youthful players or the more experienced heads such as Sam Smith, who have competed for leagues and titles and European championships, make him such a key cog in the wider Newcastle United Foundation machine. So I'm going to pick Newcastle United Foundation. I will again preface and say that I don't have a preferred favourite. I just want it to be competitive and up to teams and players to prove us right or wrong. So that is my selection.
I love that selection. I absolutely love that selection. That's a transformative potential for the league. So I'm more than happy to get mine wrong. But JB, I didn't bet against you. So there we go. There's the end on that particular selection. But we have now picked our winners, our player of the season, young player of the season, top goal scorer, top assister, best signing, player to watch and team to watch. The predictions are in. We've got those locked in and we can keep an eye on those as we go throughout the season. Are we going to go for social media forms so people can send theirs in, or are we just asking for emails?
We will ask for people's emails to come in to state their predictions, as Alex and I have done so in this podcast, and we will, of course, reference them around game week 1 of the Premiership. We may have a specific episode to preview the upcoming weekend, or one that just delves deep into the action that's unfolded in the Lee Westwood Sports Centre.
Right then, so we've put our necks on the line. Let's have your emails in to do the same. Any bold predictions are welcome as well. Any extra unusual predictions we haven't listed, chuck them in there as well. That'd be interesting to see what people think the season's going to throw up as we progress. However, I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you very much, Roy. Very good chatting with you on that one. I don't think either of us were surprised that we had different picks, but it's very good that we can make compelling arguments for so many potential winners of these awards. That just goes to show the quality that we've got and the fun that the season will entail as it unfolds.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you to everyone that's listened, and to MK Battery, the proud sponsors of the 2-on-1 Powerchair Football podcast. Catch you all soon.